Commander Jin Park's hands trembled as he rechecked the sensor readings for the fifth time. The massive display screen before him showed something that should have been impossible. A sleek vessel emerging from Earth's solar system, moving with a grace that defied everything he knew about space travel. The observation post's alarms continued their frantic warning, their sound echoing through the otherwise silent monitoring chamber. Jin ran his fingers through his gray-streaked hair, a habit he'd developed over his 3 decades of service to the Galactic Council. In all those years, he had never seen anything like this. The vessel's energy signature was unlike anything in the Council's vast database, and its hull seemed to bend light in ways that made his eyes hurt. "Computer, full spectrum analysis," he ordered, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. The massive quantum processors hummed to life, breaking down every aspect of the mysterious ship. Each new piece of data only deepened the mystery. The vessel's propulsion system appeared to ignore several fundamental laws of physics that the Council had established over millennia of space travel. Jin's second-in-command, Officer Kang, rushed into the chamber, her usually immaculate uniform slightly disheveled. "Commander, we've triple-checked all sensor arrays. There's no malfunction. That ship is real, and it's heading straight for Council space. Contact the High Council immediately," Jin ordered, knowing this discovery would shake the galactic community to its core. As he waited for the connection, he studied the vessel's trajectory. Its movement was precise, controlled. This was no accident or random encounter. Within minutes, the imposing figure of High Minister Do appeared on the main screen. Her silver scales shimmed under the light of her chamber, and her 4 eyes narrowed as she took in Jin's expression. "Commander Park, explain this urgent communication." Jin transferred the sensor data to her terminal. "High Minister, we've detected an unknown vessel emerging from Sol system. The technology it displays." He paused, choosing his words carefully. It shouldn't be possible. The High Minister's scales rippled, a sign of deep concern among her species. Her clawed hands moved swiftly over her console as she analyzed the data. "This can't be correct," she muttered. "We've monitored that system for centuries. There's been no indication of advanced technological development." "The data is accurate, High Minister. We've confirmed it multiple times," Jin replied. He highlighted several readings on her screen. "Look at the hull composition. It's some kind of adaptive metal alloy we've never seen before. And the drive system. It's achieving faster than light travel without creating any detectable spatial distortion." High Minister Do's features contracted further as she studied the readings. In her 1,000 years of service, she had overseen first contact with dozens of species, but this was different. Usually, the Council discovered developing civilizations long before they achieved spaceflight, guiding their development according to established protocols. But somehow, this species had advanced completely unnoticed. "Commander, initiate first contact protocols, but with extreme caution," she ordered. "I want continuous monitoring of that vessel. If it so much as changes course without warning, you have permission to activate defensive measures." As Jin acknowledged the order, a new alert flashed across his screen. The Earth vessel had begun broadcasting a message, in perfect galactic standard. The computer's translation matrix wasn't even needed. "Greetings, Galactic Council. This is the Earth Ship Horizon, requesting diplomatic contact. We come in peace and seek to establish formal relations." The message was simple, direct, and impossibly sophisticated. No emerging civilization should have known galactic standard, let alone the proper diplomatic protocols. Jin watched as High Minister Do's scales turned a pale silver, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. "Commander," she said slowly, "I'm activating the full council. Keep that ship under surveillance. Do not, under any circumstances, let it approach any populated systems until we understand what we're dealing with." The transmission ended, leaving Jin alone with his thoughts and the continuing alarms. Through the observation post's massive viewport, he could see the Earth vessel hanging in space, its hull seeming to shift colors like a cosmic chameleon. Something about its design spoke of efficiency and purpose, but also of creativity and innovation, qualities rarely seen together in council space. As they prepared to disembark, Dr. Hyun approached with a small device. "One last thing," he said, attaching it to her uniform's collar. "The latest in quantum translation technology. It'll let you understand and speak any language instantly, without the council's translation field." The station's artificial atmosphere enveloped them as they stepped through the airlock. A delegation of council representatives waited, their various forms representing the diversity of galactic life. Minister Lee Sun stood at their head, his tentacles now perfectly still in a show of formal diplomacy. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," he announced, his words carried by the station's translation field. "We look forward to guiding your species toward enlightenment." Yoon-hee responded in perfect galactic standard, watching with hidden satisfaction as Lee Sun's tentacles twitched in surprise. "Thank you for your welcome, Minister. Earth looks forward to sharing knowledge with the Council." The emphasis on sharing rather than receiving knowledge was subtle but clear. As they were led toward the presentation chambers, he could hear the whispers of various council members, their translator catching every word despite their attempts at secrecy. "How did they learn our language? Did you see their ship's drive system? Impossible for such a young species." The presentation chamber itself was a vast amphitheater, its walls lined with representatives from hundreds of worlds. He took her position at the center, Dr. Hyun arranging their demonstration materials with precise care. As she prepared to begin, she caught Minister Lee Sun whispering to a colleague, "Let them have their moment. Soon enough, they'll learn their place in the proper order of things." Yoon-hee smiled to herself, knowing that in the next few hours, the Council's proper order was going to be turned upside down. Earth's arrival wasn't just another first contact. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic history, and no amount of Council condescension could change that fact. The holographic displays in Do Young's research chamber flickered with thousands of images and data streams as he pored over Earth's historical records. His fingers danced across the interface, each movement revealing new information that made his heart beat faster. After 300 years, as the Council's chief historian, he had thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. "Computer, verify timeline accuracy again," he commanded, his voice trembling slightly. The AI responded instantly, confirming what he already knew. The data was correct. In the span of just over a century, humans had gone from primitive combustion engines to quantum technology. It was unprecedented. Do Young pulled up the standard development model, a template that had accurately predicted the technological progress of every known species in the galaxy. According to the model, achieving powered flight to basic space travel should take at least 5 centuries. Humans had done it in 66 years. Senior Counselor Han entered the chamber, his crystalline form catching the light from the displays. "Tell me you found the error in these records," he said, moving to stand beside Do Young. Officer Kang returned with a fresh batch of sensor readings. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with excitement or fear. Jin couldn't tell which. "We've detected energy readings from Earth itself. The planet is surrounded by some kind of field we can't identify. It's as if they'd been hiding themselves from us all along." Jin finished her thought. He stared at the new data, his mind racing with implications. The Council had always prided itself on knowing everything that happened in its space. The discovery of an advanced civilization that had developed in secret would shake the very foundations of galactic society. The Earth ship maintained its position, waiting patiently for a response. Jin couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of something momentous. Humanity hadn't just achieved the impossible. They had done it without anyone noticing, and they had done it their own way. As emergency meetings were called and ancient protocols were hastily reviewed, Jin continued to watch the mysterious vessel. In all his years of service, he had never felt more certain of one thing. The galaxy was about to change forever, and Earth was going to be the cause. The smooth fabric of the diplomatic uniform felt cool against Yoon-hee's skin as she made final adjustments in front of the full-length mirror aboard the Earth ship Horizon. The dark blue material, embedded with subtle quantum reactive threads that shifted like starlight, represented the best of Earth's textile engineering. Each time she moved, tiny constellations seemed to dance across the fabric. Dr. Hyun Kim worked methodically behind her, his experienced hands carefully arranging their presentation materials in quantum-sealed containers. "Remember," he said, not looking up from his work, "they'll be watching for any sign of weakness. The council races have spent millennia thinking they're the height of civilization." Yoon-hee nodded, checking her appearance one final time. At 45, she had negotiated some of Earth's most challenging international treaties, but this was different. This was humanity's first step onto the galactic stage. "Are you sure about including the consciousness transfer demonstration?" she asked, turning to face her colleague. "Absolutely," Hyun replied, securing the last container. "It's our trump card. According to our intel, the Council abandoned that research centuries ago. Nothing shows our capabilities better than succeeding where they failed." The ship's AI chimed softly, announcing their approach to the Council station. Through the viewport, Yoon-hee could see the massive structure, a sprawling collection of crystalline towers and impossibly thin spires that seemed to defy gravity. The station was beautiful, but its design spoke of stagnation, technology that hadn't changed in thousands of years. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, Minister Lee Sun's tentacles rippled with barely concealed disdain as he reviewed Earth's application for recognition. His crystalline eyes refracted light in complex patterns, a sign of amusement among his species. "Look at this," he chittered to his fellow council members. "They think their quantum technology is advanced. They probably barely understand basic spatial manipulation." Senior Counselor Dak, whose gaseous form swirled in shades of deep purple, moved closer to examine the documents. "Their vessel's capabilities suggest otherwise," he cautioned. "Perhaps we should." "Nonsense," Lee Sun interrupted, his tentacles making dismissive gestures. "Every new species thinks they're special. Remember the Artaxians. They claim to have mastered dark energy manipulation. Now they're grateful students of our superior technology." Back on the Earth ship, final preparations were underway. Yoon-hee watched as her support team ran through equipment checks one last time. Each device they would demonstrate represented decades of human innovation, developed in secret while the rest of the galaxy thought Earth was just another primitive world. "Ambassador," the ship's AI announced, "the Council's docking protocol is unusual. They're requesting permission to guide us in using their tractor beams." Yoon-hee smiled. "Decline politely. Inform them we'll dock under our own power." She knew what this meant. The Council was already testing them, expecting Earth's technology to be compatible with their ancient systems. The ship glided smoothly into the docking bay, its advanced gravitic drives allowing for precision that made the Council's tractor beams look crude by comparison. Through the viewport, Yoon-hee could see various alien species stopping to stare, their body language expressing surprise at the ship's autonomous docking. Ambassador Yoon, he watched the Council's reactions carefully. The different species showed their surprise in various ways, some through color changes, others through movement or lack thereof. But all of them were clearly stunned by the demonstration. "The principles are quite simple," Dr. Kim continued, adjusting the field's parameters. "We discovered that gravity isn't just a consequence of mass, but a fundamental force that can be manipulated directly. The breakthrough came when we stopped thinking of it as a pull and started treating it as a push." One of the council scientists, a being composed entirely of electromagnetic energy, moved closer to examine the device. "But the theoretical limitations, our calculations proved this was impossible." "Perhaps," Yoon-hee interjected smoothly, "your calculations were based on incomplete assumptions." She nodded to Dr. Kim, who powered down the gravity demonstration. "But that's merely the beginning. Our next demonstration involves something we believe will be of even greater interest." The chamber grew quiet as Dr. Kim brought out a second device. This one was smaller, seemingly nothing more than a crystalline sphere about the size of a tennis ball. This, he announced, represents our latest breakthrough in consciousness transfer technology. The silence in the chamber deepened. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This field of research was considered taboo, not for ethical reasons, but because of the devastating failures that had led the council to declare it impossible centuries ago. As you can see, Dr. Kim continued, activating the sphere, the device creates a quantum matrix capable of holding and transferring consciousness patterns. The sphere began to glow with an inner light, patterns of energy dancing across its surface. A senior council member, whose species communicated through bioluminescence, flashed patterns of intense skepticism. We lost thousands of minds to failed transfer attempts. The consciousness degrades instantly upon transfer. This is well documented. Dr. Kim smiled gently. That's because you were trying to transfer the entire consciousness at once. We discovered that consciousness isn't a single pattern, but a quantum symphony of interconnected patterns. The key isn't to move it, but to synchronize it. To demonstrate, he placed the sphere on the console and pressed his hand against it. The patterns within the crystal shifted, taking on a distinctly human neural pattern. On the massive display above, his brain activity appeared in real time, perfectly mirrored in the sphere. The consciousness isn't transferred. He explained to the stunned audience. It's extended. The original remains intact while a quantum duplicate forms in the receiver. Once synchronization is complete, the consciousness exists in both places simultaneously. The implications hit the council members like a physical force. This wasn't just consciousness transfer, it was consciousness expansion. The potential applications were staggering. Currently, Dr. Kim added, removing his hand from the sphere, we can maintain the dual state for about 6 hours before quantum decoherence requires a reset. But we're making progress on extending that duration. Minister Lee Sun had gone completely still, his tentacles rigid with shock. How, he began, then stopped, seeming to struggle with the question. How did you solve the pattern degradation problem? By accepting that consciousness isn't digital or analog, Dr. Kim replied. It's quantum. Once we understood that, the solution became obvious. We stopped trying to copy the data and started creating quantum entanglement between organic and artificial neural patterns. Yoon-hee stepped forward, her uniform catching the light. Earth is prepared to share this technology, along with our gravity manipulation systems, as part of a mutual exchange of knowledge with the Council. The chamber erupted in excited discussion, hundreds of different species trying to process the implications of what they'd just witnessed. Humanity hadn't just solved one impossible problem. They'd solved two and were offering to share the solutions freely. As Dr. Kim began shutting down the demonstration equipment, he caught Ambassador Yoon-hee's eye and nodded slightly. They had achieved their goal. The Council could no longer dismiss Earth as just another primitive species seeking guidance. They had proved that humanity wasn't coming to learn from the Council. They were coming to teach. Professor Ji-woo stood calmly in the center of the council chamber, her small frame dwarfed by the towering crystalline architecture surrounding her. The device on her wrist looked deceptively simple, a slim band of dark metal with a subtle blue glow pulsing beneath its surface. Around her, the council members had descended into near chaos. We don't assume something is impossible just because it hasn't been done before. Ji-woo completed his thought. That's humanity's greatest strength. We question, we explore, we imagine possibilities rather than accepting limitations. Through the quantum link, more Earth scientists had gathered, eager to share their knowledge with their galactic counterparts. The council chamber, which had begun the day as a place of judgment and evaluation, had transformed into something else entirely, a place of learning, where 12,000 years of established science was being rewritten by a species that had mastered spaceflight less than a century ago. As Ji-woo watched the exchange of ideas begin, she knew that this was just the beginning. Earth hadn't just solved quantum entanglement communication. They had proved that the impossible was merely the undiscovered. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. The Grand Council chamber, usually a place of order and ceremony, had transformed into a scene of barely contained chaos. Species from across the galaxy, each represented by their most dignified diplomats, had abandoned protocol entirely. Minister Doe's silver scales reflected the frantic movement around her as dozens of races competed for Earth's attention. Ambassador Min sat quietly at his designated place, watching the scene unfold with careful attention. His dark eyes moved from one group to another, noting the shifting alliances and power dynamics playing out before him. The Artaxians, who had sneered at Earth's delegation just hours earlier, were now practically begging for access to human quantum technology. "We must have priority access," demanded the Zithran representative, their crystalline form flashing with urgent patterns. "Our entire civilization depends on solving our energy crisis. Earth's gravity manipulation technology could save billions of lives." Before Min could respond, the Makari delegation pushed forward. "Our mining colonies are failing. We've spent centuries trying to develop better extraction methods. We need Earth's expertise immediately." Minister Doe raised her clawed hands, attempting to restore order, but her usually commanding presence seemed diminished. The carefully maintained hierarchy of the Council, built over thousands of years, was dissolving before her eyes. Min caught a subtle signal from his assistant and checked the small display built into his chair's arm. New messages were pouring in from across Council space. Worlds that hadn't even attended the presentation were already requesting diplomatic relations with Earth. "Please," called out a representative of the Quantum Sciences Division, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. "We must establish research partnerships immediately. The implications of human quantum theory alone could advance our understanding by centuries." Min stood slowly, his movement deliberately calm amid the chaos. He waited, saying nothing, until the chamber gradually fell silent. When he spoke, his voice was measured and clear. "Earth understands the excitement our demonstrations have caused," he began. "We also understand the potential impact our technologies could have on your civilizations. However, we must proceed thoughtfully." The chamber remained quiet, every being focused intently on his words. Even Minister Doe had turned all four of her eyes toward him, her scales shifting colors in rapid succession. "We are willing to share our knowledge," Min continued, "but we seek true exchange, not a one-way transfer of technology. Each of your species has developed unique insights over millennia of evolution and advancement. We want to learn from you as much as you want to learn from us." A murmur ran through the chamber. This wasn't how newly contacted species were supposed to behave. They were supposed to be grateful for Council guidance, eager to be taught the proper way of doing things. "But surely," began the Artaxian representative, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion, "you understand that our civilization is far older than yours. That our experience, age," Min interrupted gently, "does not always equal advancement. We respect your history and achievements, but we also know that sometimes fresh perspectives can reveal new possibilities in old problems." Minister Doe moved forward, her ceremonial robes rustling. "Ambassador Min speaks wisdom," she said, surprising many in the chamber. "Perhaps it is time for the Council to evolve, to learn as well as teach." The implications of her words rippled through the assembly. The Council had always been the teacher, the guide, the authority. The idea that they might become students as well represented a fundamental shift in galactic society. Councillor Song's crystalline body vibrated so intensely that small fragments of light scattered across the chamber floor. His voice, usually maintained in perfect harmonic resonance, cracked with distress. "This is a trick," he insisted. "The quantum barrier theorem has stood for 12,000 years. Every attempted violation has failed." Jiagu adjusted a small control on her wrist device, causing a holographic display to materialize in the center of the chamber. "Watch carefully," she said, her voice steady and confident. "What you're about to see is a real-time quantum link with Earth's central science facility." A hologram stabilized, showing a large laboratory where dozens of scientists moved about their work. The image was crystal clear, with no lag or distortion, something that should have been impossible across light years of space. "Dr. Park," Ji-woo called out, addressing one of the figures in the hologram. "Would you mind demonstrating the link's stability?" The scientist in the hologram turned immediately and smiled. There was no delay in his response, no light speed limitation. He picked up a complex mathematical equation from his desk and held it up. "Shall we solve this together, Professor?" Counselor Song's crystalline form had stopped vibrating, frozen in what appeared to be shock. Other council members moved closer, their various sensory organs focused intently on the demonstration. A quantum mathematics specialist, whose gas cloud body swirled with patterns of disbelief, floated forward. "The equation," the specialist noted, "it's changing in real time on both ends. This isn't a recording or a prediction algorithm. The quantum states are actually entangled." "Yes," Ji-woo confirmed, expanding the holographic display. "We discovered that the quantum barrier theorem had a fundamental flaw. It assumed that entanglement had to be maintained between individual particles." She gestured, and the display shifted to show complex quantum mechanics equations. "Instead, we created quantum fields. The entanglement exists at the field level, not the particle level. It's like the difference between trying to link individual drops of water versus linking two oceans." The chamber erupted with questions, dozens of species trying to understand this paradigm shift in physics. Ji-woo answered each query patiently, her explanations clear and precise. She could see the moment of understanding dawn in each being's reaction, the realization that everything they knew about quantum mechanics needed to be reconsidered. "But the energy requirements," another council member began. Ji-woo interrupted gently by expanding the hologram to show the power source of her wrist device. "That was another assumption we had to overcome. The Council's research always focused on forcing quantum states to maintain connection. We discovered it's far more efficient to create conditions where they naturally want to stay connected." Through the quantum link, Dr. Park began transmitting detailed technical data. The Council's quantum specialists gathered around the displays, their reactions ranging from amazement to disbelief as they saw the elegant simplicity of Earth's solution. 3 centuries. Counselor Song finally spoke again, his voice quieter now. "We spent 3 centuries trying to solve this problem. How did your species manage it in mere decades?" Ji-woo's response was diplomatic but direct. "We approached it differently. Instead of accepting the theorem as absolute, we questioned its foundations. When we found inconsistencies, we explored them rather than trying to force them to fit existing theories." The quantum link continued to operate flawlessly, defying 12,000 years of established physics. Through it, Earth scientists began sharing more details of their breakthrough, each revelation causing new waves of excitement and disbelief among the council members. "The implications," the gas cloud specialist whispered, "its patterns shifting rapidly. This changes everything. Instant communication across any distance. Perfect information transfer without loss or delay. The entire galaxy could be connected in real time." Ji-woo nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "That's just the beginning. We've already begun experimenting with larger-scale applications. Transportation, energy transfer, even the possibility of instant material replication across vast distances." Counselor Song's crystalline form had begun to emit a low hum, a sign of deep contemplation among his species. "Your species," he said slowly, "you don't think like we do. You don't accept limitations. You don't. We propose," Min said, "a series of mutual exchange programs. Earth will share its technological advances, but we also want to learn from each of you. Your art, your philosophy, your unique approaches to problems we haven't even encountered yet." He gestured, and holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing proposed collaboration projects. "Imagine what we could achieve together, not as teachers and students, but as equals working toward common goals." The chamber buzzed with excited discussion, as species began to grasp the possibilities. The Zithran's energy crisis might be solved by combining their ancient knowledge with Earth's fresh approach. The Makari's mining problems could be addressed through collaboration rather than dependence. "This is not how things are done," protested one of the elder council members, their energy form flickering with distress. "Perhaps," Min replied with a slight smile. "That is exactly why it should be done this way. Earth has achieved what we have precisely because we were willing to try new approaches, to question established methods." As the chamber slowly reorganized itself around this new paradigm, Min could see the future taking shape. The galaxy was changing, not through conquest or control, but through cooperation and mutual respect. Earth hadn't come to dominate or submit. They had come to transform. Minister Do approached Min privately as the chamber began to empty. "You understand," she said quietly, "that this changes everything. The power structure of the galaxy, the role of the council itself." Min nodded. "Change was inevitable," he replied. "We're just helping guide it in a positive direction. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to grow together." As new agreements were drafted and collaboration frameworks established, the old order of the galaxy continued to shift. Earth had arrived not as supplicants or conquerors, but as catalysts for a new age of galactic cooperation. The paradigm shift wasn't just in technology or science. It was in how different species could relate to each other as equals, each bringing their own unique strengths to the table. The massive research facility orbiting Earth's moon hummed with activity as beings from across the galaxy worked side by side with human scientists. Dr. Song Min stood at the central control station, surrounded by holographic displays showing experimental data from a dozen different projects. The sight of various alien species working in perfect harmony with human researchers still amazed him after 3 months. "The quantum field harmonics are stabilizing," announced a Zithran scientist, their crystalline form glowing with excitement. "The human approach to field theory it's revolutionary." Dr. Song Min nodded, studying the data streams. What had once seemed impossible was now becoming routine. By combining Earth's innovative quantum mechanics with the Council's vast experience in space-time manipulation, they had created something entirely new. In another section of the facility, Ambassador Yoon, he walked alongside Minister Do, observing the various research teams at work. The silver-scaled council leader had become a strong advocate for human-alien cooperation, though the change hadn't been easy for her. "I never imagined," Minister Do said, her scales shifting in patterns of wonder, "that we could achieve so much in such a short time. Your species, you think differently than any we've encountered before." Yoon he watched as a human physicist worked with a gaseous alien being, their conversation animated as they discussed theoretical models. "We had no choice but to think differently," she replied. "We developed in isolation, without knowing what others had declared impossible." The main project display lit up, showing the latest test results. The new drive system they had developed together combined human quantum field technology with ancient council knowledge of spatial mechanics. Early tests suggested it could reduce interstellar travel time by factors previously thought unachievable. "Look at this," Dr. Song Min called out, drawing attention to a particular data set. "The quantum field is maintaining stability even at extreme distances. We can create stable wormhole apertures without the energy requirements the Council always assumed were necessary." The assembled scientists gathered around, their various forms, crystalline, gaseous, energy-based, and organic, all focused on the remarkable data. What the Council had spent millennia trying to achieve, this joint team had accomplished in weeks. In her private observation room, Yoon he reviewed reports from other collaborative projects across Council space. Human medical techniques were being combined with alien biotechnology to cure diseases thought incurable. Earth's quantum communication systems were being integrated with Council technology to create a true galactic internet. "It's not just the technology," she mused aloud. "It's the way we approach problems. We never learn to accept limitations." Minister Do, who had followed her into the room, made a sound of agreement. Your species sees barriers as challenges to overcome, not absolute limits to accept. It's refreshing. Frightening sometimes, but refreshing. Below them, in the main research bay, a new test was beginning. The prototype drive system powered up, its quantum fields interacting with Council technology in ways that defied conventional physics. The success of this test would mean more than just faster space travel. It would represent the true beginning of a new galactic order. Integration complete, Dr. Songmin announced. Quantum field stability at 100%. Council systems responding perfectly. Beginning final test sequence. The chamber hummed with energy as the combined technologies activated. On the displays, data streamed in confirming what they had all hoped. The impossible had become possible once again. Cheers erupted from the assembled scientists, each species expressing joy in their own unique way. The Zithrans glowed with brilliant patterns, the gaseous beings swirled in complex dances, and the humans simply smiled and hugged each other. This is just the beginning, Yoon, he said softly, watching the celebration below. Every day we work together, we discover new possibilities. Things neither humans nor Council species could have achieved alone. Minister Do's scales rippled with emotion. The old Council would never have allowed this. We were so certain of our superiority, so sure we had nothing left to learn. Your arrival, it saved us from our own stagnation. Dr. Songmin's voice came over the communication system, filled with excitement. Ambassador, Minister, the test results are beyond our highest expectations. We can begin implementing the new drive systems immediately. Interstellar travel will never be the same. Yoon smiled, remembering the early days when the Council had dismissed Earth as just another primitive species seeking guidance. Now, barely 3 months later, humanity had helped spark a renaissance of discovery and innovation across the galaxy. Perhaps that's our true contribution to the galaxy, she said, watching the continued celebrations below. Not our technology or our methods, but our willingness to question everything, to never stop asking why not. Minister Do turned all 4 of her eyes toward Yoon. Your species has taught us much more than that. You've shown us that true strength lies not in maintaining control, but in embracing change and cooperation. As the prototype drive system powered down, its success already being transmitted to research centers across Council space, Yoon felt a profound sense of satisfaction. Earth had not just joined the galactic community, they had helped transform it into something new and better. The galaxy would never return to what it had been before Earth's arrival. And as she watched humans and aliens working together, celebrating their shared achievement, she knew that was exactly as it should be.